Welcome, gratitude seekers, to our wonderful meeting with Meryl Hershey Beck. Meryl has been called the Queen of Emerging Joy and teaches ways to break the chains of emotional eating and live a joy-filled, authentic life. She is the author of the Amazon bestseller, Stop Eating Your Heart Out, but she didn't stop there. I'll let her tell you a bit about herself and her work. Meryl?
Thanks so much for having me on this. I want to start out with, it's really hard to decide which is my favorite gratitude quote. But the one that I use over and over again when I did my writing, I used to put out a list called inspirational words. And I found out that every time I focused on gratitude, I'd use this one. And it was very old. It's from Seneca. So this is ancient wisdom. And he said, "Unhappy is the man, though he ruled the world, who doesn't consider himself supremely blessed."
Wow. That's really deep. And how did you use this quote? When did you reread it? In what times did you go back to it?
Well, I used to send out, it started daily, and then it was weekly, and then it was once in a while, a free group called Inspirational Words with a whole bunch of quotes on it. And then I had the quotes selected according to category. And I noticed that I sent out gratitude 3 or 4 times, you know, I like to send out gratitude. But gratitude wasn't a word I was comfortable with a long time ago. I hated that word. Can I tell you, want me to tell you more about that?
No, yeah, of course.
Okay. So I was involved in 12-step recovery. Food was my drug of choice. I was a binge eater. I had actually had binge eating disorder. I didn't know that. But food was my comfort. It was my joy. I numbed out. It was my anesthetizer. It was my everything. And I found a group that was based on 12 steps, like AA, that was devoted to food. And I'd walk in and they'd say, and I'm going to use the words that I heard in my head, "Have an attitude of gratitude." And I went, I couldn't stand it. I mean, that was like, and all this Pollyanna stuff. You know, I just didn't like that.
Yeah.
And I discovered the reason it upset me so much is because, and it made me just cringe, is because I knew I should feel grateful, but I had so much inner pain that I had to work through that I couldn't touch the gratitude for quite a few years.
Yeah.
You know, I was the kind of person that was always smiling and happy, but inside I was crying and I was gasping for air. I mean, I was dying inside and nobody knew that. So how could I feel grateful when that's what was really going on and the world only saw, "Oh, I'm great, thank you very much." So it took me a long time to work through the personal issues and the personal growth and the inner work. And then when I get into the other side, wow, I feel grateful for so much now. I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't say, you know, "Thank you, God." You know, and when I do affirmations, in fact, that's the way I start them. I go, "Thank you," and let's say, "Thank you for bringing me blah, blah, blah." You know, so it starts out with as if it already happened. "Thank you, God, for blah, blah, whatever." So I have gratitude in my life all the time now, but boy, it took a while to get there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a journey, and this is one of the reasons that I'm doing this podcast, because I know it's not something that you do easily. So, or at least for most people, it's something that they need to work on. It's not something like they just do because it's so easy and stuff like that. Because most of the time we have challenges, we have moments when we are down, moments when when we feel like nothing is working. And having this habit of being grateful is something that you need to work on. Actually, it's not something that comes really easily. But I think
I want to read to you, since I went through all that my past posts on gratitude. I found this one, which was November 22nd of 2000. I wrote this. At one time in my life, when I was in my 30s, whenever I heard someone say, have an attitude of gratitude, I thought I'd puke. I was filled with a G emotion, all right, but it wasn't gratitude. It was guilt and shame too. Bradshaw explains the difference. Guilt is I made a mistake. Shame is I am a mistake. So it was mostly shame that I felt. Therefore, whenever I heard the word gratitude, I shuddered and then berated myself. I should feel grateful. I have so much. But shooting on myself never helps. I would just feel worse. It's now 2 decades later. That was in 2000. After years and years of personal growth work, I no longer cringe when I hear the word gratitude. In fact, about 10 years ago, I even taught an adult education class on gratitude. Now, when I hear or think the word, it centers and energizes me. It elicits an inner smile, reminding me of all the gifts I have. I've received and continue to receive on a daily basis. And so for me today, having an attitude of gratitude means having a perfect day.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. So, you had a journal since 2000 or?
Oh, I've had journals for many years. This came from not just a journal, but when I sent out the inspirational words on November 22nd of 2000, the topic was gratitude, and my writing appeared with everybody else's writing. I quoted myself.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm sure it's not something easy, and I'm sure that you've, after you discovered the power of gratitude, I know you are a counselor for almost 30 years now, and I'm thinking that you might also use it with your clients, with the people you work with.
Absolutely. It's really interesting. I just recently took a look at the type of people I serve, the type of groups that I serve, and there's 5 groups, and I'll tell you where gratitude fits in briefly with each one. So since I grew up with binge eating disorder, and that was what I turned my biggest wound into my work. I worked with people with eating disorders, overeaters, people with binge eating disorder, people who were bulimic, people who had cravings, and for them. And so we had to start with little things, because they would be beating themselves up all the time. Oh, I ate. I thought I was going to be good today. And by the way, I can't stand when people use moral judgments on what you eat. So that's just another aside. And I thought I was going to be so good today, and I had a salad for lunch, but then I had a chocolate chip cookie, so they'd be beating themselves up rather than saying, wow, I'm so grateful I only had one, rather than having a dozen. So I would start pointing out the little things they could be grateful for. Look, you stopped this time. You didn't start rolling into a binge that lasted for days this time. So I would point out little things they could be grateful for until they were able to see them for themselves. So that's the first group. Wow. The second group are women who give and give and give and give, but they don't know how to receive. They don't even know how to receive a compliment. And so I'll say, Susan, what a pretty dress you're wearing. And she'll say, oh, this old thing, not even a compliment.
Yeah.
So when they were I don't do this to friends, but with clients, I can do it because they come to ask me for my assistance. And I would say, wow, did you just hear what you said? I wonder if you can just be still with it for a moment and allow that to come in and think about how grateful you are that you actually are able to own this article of clothing and wear it and how good it looks on you. And so I would point out little things that they could be grateful for, because they were so often pushing away the comments that would feel good. They didn't know how to receive that and didn't know how to be open to receive. They would go, oh, this is nothing. Oh, I should have done more. Because women especially, I know men do this too, but women especially are trained to give and give and give and give, and the well runs dry. And I teach them how to start filling their well so they have more to give and more to be grateful for. The third group is, I guess we'll go to grief and loss. So I started speaking about this just a few years ago because I had the biggest pain a parent can have when my son died almost 5 years ago. And I teach people and share with them the tools that I use to recover from grief and loss. And then we go talk about what we're grateful for when we did have this beloved in our life, or when we did have it. It's not always a person that died. Sometimes they lost their job. So let's talk about some of the things you had, what you can be grateful for. Wow, I had 5 years of being able to park in the employee of the month spot, whatever it is. So we can look back on what we had. And then eventually, what I like to teach all my people and remind myself is to be grateful for it when it's happening, so that when it's gone, we don't say, oh, that was so wonderful. I wish I would have appreciated it while I was having it rather than taking it for granted. So
Yeah.
appreciating what we have every single day of our lives. The fourth group are people who have been disconnected from source, God, whatever word they use, and they forgot that they are really eternal spiritual beings here in a human form. And for those people, we end up talking a little bit about spirituality, and some of them buy this and some of them don't, that they've chosen to be here. And if they don't, that's okay. We can go a whole different route, just about appreciating what we do have here. That whole glass is half full, half empty thing, appreciating, the glass is half empty, but what's in that half empty stuff? It is half full. What's in it?
Yeah,
And the
exactly.
more we appreciate that, the fuller it gets. So the fifth group are people who believe that inner critic voice.
Yeah.
The inner critic started out to help you because our parents and our caregivers wanted us to fit into society, to be civilized, to not being little, running around crazy people,
Yeah, yeah.
And so we learned these things. But then we took over, and became our minds, and the voice in our heads became bigger and more critical and more judgmental than anybody ever really was probably in our lives. And we
I know.
pick on ourselves for the littlest things. I'll give you an example. So I was on a TV show, a morning interview show,
Mhm.
I don't know, 25 years ago. And I knew I was going to be critical of seeing myself on the show. I knew it. But what did I criticize? Oh, look at your eyebrows. Why didn't somebody tell you to get your eyebrows? Oh my goodness, that's all I'm going to notice is your eyebrow. Your lips are so thin. Why didn't you put lipstick? And so I was picking on myself. And when I stopped doing that, I sort of took a breath and said, wow, I was on local television show, and I got to talk about these things and help these people. And so the things that were so big became smaller and smaller and smaller. So the things that really mattered can become bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, exactly. I've been thinking about this. I was writing today an article for my blog on georgianbanta.com. And I was thinking about the moment you receive your paycheck from the work you're doing, and the fact that many people, after they receive their paycheck, they immediately think of, okay, I have to pay this, I have to pay that, I have this bill, I have that bill. I really need to do this with the money. They don't stop even for a second to think, wow, I've received, I don't know, the amount of money that they are receiving. What an amazing thing. I can do so many things with it. It sustains me. I can feel abundant. Because when you focus on just, okay, I have to pay this and that, you feel like, oh my God, it's not enough. It's really not enough. I can't get by with this. And it's the same amount of money, but the amount of focus you put into whether it's, wow, it's a lot of money, or wow, I have so many things to pay. This is where you give it energy, and this is what grows. And the thing is that after that, your mind says, okay, so you don't want to suffer like this every month, right? And you find a way in which you can make it so it's not enough next month also. and even you make it so that you lose the money or something like that because there's not enough.
Right, right, right. I
And
agree.
I think it's the same with the way we see ourselves. If we criticize ourselves all the time, we go away, we take away our focus from the positive aspects that we have. And
One of the universal laws is whatever we focus on increases.
yeah,
So if I keep focusing on it's not enough, it's not enough, it's not going to be enough. But if I focus on, oh, I got this, it's great, it'll get greater and greater and greater. Yeah.
exactly. And this is why I think your work is really amazing, and it's really necessary, because if we tend to focus so much on the critic inside of us, of course we are great members of society because we criticize ourselves all the time, and like you said, we smile and we look like we are okay, but in fact inside we are suffering, and we are, and it's not easy because we don't see the positive, and we just want to be a part of society and be how society wants us to be.
So I didn't realize how I was struggling in life until I was in a women's group, and every week we did a different activity. And one week the facilitator for the week said, "Well, draw a picture of who you are, who people see on the outside. And then turn the paper over and draw a picture of what you are on the inside. On the outside, I'm smiling and bubbly. And on the inside, I was like a salmon going upstream, and it was such a struggle and so much work. And how can I make it?" And that's when I realized, that life, I need to get these two parts, the inside and the outside, so they're closer together. So that, because I felt like such a fraud. I felt like I'm presenting myself in a way that I'm not really that person. I mean, when I was in high school, they used to call me Smiley. Inside, I was crying. Outside, "Oh, I'm good, thank you." And it's, my goal now is to continue to lead an authentic life. It doesn't always look pretty, but it's authentic.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm grateful for that.
And I think it's the case for many people. I don't think you're the only one that has been doing this or is actually, I think there are actually people that are doing this right now, and they smile for the world, but inside they are not really okay, not really happy. And it's nothing to blame, of course. It's all right. You have to fit in and stuff, stuff like that. But it's also important to look inside and see, and like you said, match the two,
Mm-hmm.
make it so it's more balanced. And I think that this will help people to get to that.
Right. And it's really about, for me, I had to become self-honest. There's a quote that's not a gratitude quote that I continue to have in my head, which is, deception of others is almost always rooted in the deception of self. So when I'm busy smiling years ago and pretending, I used to say my middle name was pretend, and pretending that I'm happy, I was deceiving everybody, but I was also deceiving myself because I wanted to be that person, and I wasn't addressing the things that were causing me so much pain. And I needed to do the inner work. I needed to do my inner child work, my past family relationship stuff, my family of origin work. I needed to do all that. And then I can come out and emerge whole and grateful and really joyful, not pretend joyful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know that you have a strong opinion about gratitude lists. Can you
So
tell me a bit about this?
gratitude lists are one of my favorite ways to get out of what I call my piss poor mood. So if I'm feeling down for whatever reason, sometimes I do it in my head and sometimes I write it. I've gone through long periods of time where every night I'll write a gratitude list and then get up in the morning and read it. And I haven't done that for a while. But it can be as simple as, thank you that I'm breathing. Thank you I have fingers and they're moving and I can use them. Thank you that I have eyes to see. Anything. It can be, thank you I have a home, I'm fed. Whatever you want to start with gratitude.
Yeah.
Because so often we forget we just take things for granted. We overlook that. We have everything going smooth, and we hit the bump, and what do we focus on? Oh, it's rocky time here. What about all this other stuff that was smooth and easy and in the flow? So I used to be a co-facilitator on weekend retreats, and we would help people work on their core beliefs. So you can imagine a lot of stuff would come up. And one of the tools, I don't know where it came from, but one of the tools we would use when somebody was feeling really grumpy and down and depressed, we send them out on I don't know if we called it a gratitude walk. We'd send them out on a walk. And on the way out, with every step, they can think to themselves or say it out loud what they were upset about. Oh, my daughter is so bad and blah, blah, blah. And my wife doesn't listen to me. And my husband doesn't give me money. And there's not enough food in the house. And I can't keep myself on a diet. Everything they're upset about, or focus on whatever they're upset about with every single step. And when they're tired of doing that, they turn around. And when they turn around, coming back, every single step is, I'm so grateful that I had an opportunity to do this. I'm so grateful I'm breathing. I'm so grateful I'm moving my legs. So every step is a step of gratitude.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really very powerful. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So whenever I'm feeling down, or I have a client feeling down, I'll get a little email, help, I'm feeling so bummed today. I say, okay, we'll set up an appointment. But meanwhile, just write 5 things you're grateful for. Let's focus on that. Where we put our attention, it helps our energy, it helps our mood. And so why not put our attention on something we're thankful for, even if it's just for a moment?
Exactly. It's really interesting that a friend of mine had a child like some months ago. And for me, I didn't have too much experience with babies. And for me, it was really interesting to see that I know a lot of things that he doesn't, like walking. It's something that we take for granted. It's something like, of course I can walk. It's something simple. Everybody does it. And keeping your head straight, it's something that's a big thing for a baby. But for us, it's like, of course I do it. It's not something that doesn't really take any effort. And
how about even feeding ourselves rather than hitting our forehead? We can find our mouths.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing to see how many things we know and we have. I always, for instance, when I see people that are blind or that have some kind of handicap, I feel compassion for them, but I also feel grateful, and it's a reminder for myself that, wow, I can see this world. I can see the beautiful trees. I can see the colors. I can see everything. And the other person might be able to imagine how it would look like, but I'm able to see. When someone doesn't have both legs, I'm able to walk. I'm able to run. I'm healthy. It's something that it's like, wow, it's really something amazing that we have. And we only remember this when we don't have it. Actually, when we're sick, it's like, oh my God, I would so love it. I would be healthy and I would do this and that. But when we're healthy, it's like, of course we're healthy. Yeah, and
Absolutely agree.
I
We take
think
so much for granted.
yeah, exactly. And you wrote an article these days about happiness, and I'm sure that the fact that we can be grateful for things actually make us happy, not the other way around.
Right. What I don't know if I actually wrote this in the article, but I wrote it in the email talking about the article. One of the things, I hope I can say this online, one of the things we hear all the time is shit happens.
Yeah.
But what if we turn it around and say happiness happens? We just have to be awake enough to see it. Happiness happens. Let's open our eyes and find it. And then that's what we're grateful for. And I want to also say that we're not just grateful for the happiness, there, sorry, I thought I turned my phone off. Oh, well, I don't know where to hear this. It's, I have also been able to be grateful for the things that have not made me happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, that's the hardest. It's easy to feel grateful when things are going well and money just came in and you feel appreciated, all those good things. But what about the times when things aren't going good? And I often don't feel it right away, but I like to look for the blessing in disguise. I like
Yeah.
to look for the gift of this, the learning around this, so that it's not just, I think back on that occasion and it's just all depression.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important because what our tendency is, or at least my tendency, I can't speak for everyone, it's like to forget it, to act like it didn't happen and that's not me and I didn't do that and that didn't happen to me. And it's easy to run away. It seems easy to run away from it, but actually deep inside you still have that experience. And if you choose to look at it from another perspective, you can do something about it. Otherwise, it's still there. You act like you don't see it, but it's still there.
I think one of my goals has been for quite a while to not allow myself to feel like a victim, to
Mhm.
find a way to feel empowered in whatever the situation is. So, for instance, I just ran a promotion, big sale on my website, and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I mean, I didn't have the kind of sales I expected. And I spent probably half of a day, so at least it wasn't a long time, feeling
Mhm.
pretty down and discouraged. And, people don't want my products. And I'll put all this energy and effort and time and money into the promotion, blah, blah, blah. And then I was able to turn it around during a meditation and say, wow, I think I wasn't supposed to do that because it needed to free me up. It was going to take up so much of my time if they bought all the services that I was offering. And I have so much more that I want to be spending time on, so many more creative enterprises. Like I'm teaching a class on Udemy now, and I want to continue writing classes. I'm a teacher. I want to get my
Yeah.
word out there. So I'm doing it right now in online learning, such as Udemy.
It's awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Maybe that there's a higher work that you need to do.
Right.
And also what I think is that we have much more power than we think actually. And when some things like these don't happen, like we don't have as much sales, or I don't know, something doesn't happen, in fact, we on a deeper level didn't want it to happen. It may be that we wanted to have free time, or that we wanted to work on the course, like your situation,
Right, right.
or
Yeah,
it
that's
may.
such a great thing. Because what happened for me was I had the visualization that there was a great flow between the products and the people. And then I said, well,
Mhm.
that's what I want. What's the reality? And there was a rope holding the people back. It was like hordes of people. And when I found after I didn't do it during the time of the promotion, I did afterward, I said, what was that
Mhm.
rope? And it was my energy holding them back because I felt like they were going to crush me if they all came and trampled on me and wanted me and started pulling pieces of me because they wanted, so it was my energy holding it back, but I didn't, it was
Exactly.
very much at an unconscious level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure because you might think that, okay, if you get all those clients, you won't have time for yourself or the things that
Right.
matter for you. It's the same for money also. When we think, in general, I think that if we think that if we want to make more money, we would have to make more sacrifices. Of
Mhm.
course, we don't want to make those sacrifices if they are really important for us. And we don't want to make more money. And I mean, we say we want to make more money, but actually on a deeper level we actually don't. So until we get to understand that, okay, more money for us means that we will have to sacrifice things, and
Yeah,
if we
so
work
one of
on
the
that.
challenges is that we're so not in touch with our unconscious. And it's like that,
Mhm.
it's the iceberg theory. So here's the iceberg. It's huge, but what do we see?
Yeah.
A little bit on the top. That's all we're conscious of, but the rest of it's really driving our bus. we don't realize why we're making decisions and taking actions the way we do. And it's mostly because of what's going on at an unconscious level. And, it's designed because there's a part of us that really wants it that way. So it's about us being grateful that we have a part of us that's really, or maybe all of us, that really wants the best for us and wants life to be easy and great in whatever ways. And sometimes we have to take a look at these unconscious beliefs, because sometimes they are holding us back, but they're not doing it in a mean way, just like the critical voice doesn't want to be mean. They just want you to show up the best way you can show up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's looking at things a little bit differently. I don't believe that anybody gets up in the morning and says, okay, how am I going to screw up my day today? That's not their intention.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that's really what I believe also, because we all want to be happy, but I think we want to be safe. This is how we are wired as beings. As I like to call the animal part of us wants us to feel secured, to feel safe, and as I understand our body, it's meant to make us feel protected, and this is how our brain works also. So it's a challenge for us when we become conscious of our body and of our mind and of our soul, to choose to be happy. It's not something that's given by nature, in my opinion. There are some people that are, or at least seem, naturally happy, but I think it's something that we need to work on, like with gratitude.
Yeah, it's interesting. The image that I get images. The image I just got reminded me how children are naturally happy. You see kids laughing and full of glee. And children are also very curious. And then what happens, and we in society are doing it because we're doing what we think is best for the child, we're squashing all that stuff when they get into formal education, when they get into churches, different things. But so the nature of the child, the nature of the being is to be curious, is to be naturally happy. And we lose some of that. So part of our work as adults is to go back and reclaim. That's part of our birthright. To be curious and to be happy, and to be grateful for all that.
Yeah, exactly. And what I also wanted to ask you, do you have some people in your life that you want to mention that you are grateful to?
Well, I'm really grateful to my parents. We've had falling outs in the past, and I'm so grateful that we healed them. My dad died when he was 95. My mom's 95 now. We have such a wonderful relationship, but it wasn't this, everything was always hunky-dory. We had to go through our growth periods and our work through and come to a place of actually appreciating each other and loving each other. My dad and I had a big falling out at one point, and then he came to me and he said, I'm your father, and it's time for me to support you and to really appreciate who you are. Oh my gosh, did that help my heart? Right. It was so wonderful. The other person that I'll probably mention now, there's many people I'm grateful for, but one of my people who helped me make a turnaround in my life is my friend Robin. Now, Robin and I were counselors together in Ohio. And Robin became my best friend, and she's the one that held up a mirror for me and said, this is who you really are. Because I had such a huge inner critic that was telling me who I am. She was showing me who I am. They didn't match. So I started seeing my beauty rather than every place that I was missing the mark. Okay, so she was so important in opening my eyes and helping me to wake up to who I am. I'm a child of God. I'm beautiful. I'm creative, blah, blah, blah. But the inner critic would have said, come on, you're a nothing. You're stupid. You do things wrong. You make mistakes. You think you're great and you're not, just all that stuff. So I'm so grateful she came into my life and was reflection and showed me and keeps reminding me. She's still in my life. keeps reminding me of who I am, and that my greatest and most important relationship is my relationship to Source. Because people will fail us, but my relationship to God, Source, Universe is the only one that's constant and is always there and will never fail me.
Mm-hmm,
And I'm
mm-hmm.
not a religious person, but I am spiritual.
Yeah, I know how it is. I feel the same way because, like you said about people, my opinion is that there are great things about many religions, but they are just a means to an end. And
Mm-hmm.
if we go directly to the end, like to God, Source, the universe, however we like to call it, um, we go directly. We don't need to, okay, I don't know what kind of religion and I have to do this and that. It's something that's direct and that you
Mm-hmm.
feel it beyond any kind of means. This is
Right.
what I think.
Yeah, I may have been in my book somewhere. I said, and I've been quoting myself for a long time now, that my belief is that religion separates people, but
Hmm.
spirituality unifies them.
Yeah, yeah. This is what I believe also. Because ultimately, we all believe in a God that's made out of love and that loves us, that created this universe. And many of the things that are in different religions are in common. And we
Oh
should
yeah,
look at the things that are in common in different religions. For instance, gratitude, I think it's one of them.
absolutely.
I've seen it, I've done some research regarding gratitude, and I've seen it also in the Muslim faith. I've also seen it, of course, in Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
Orthodox, in all kinds of faiths have gratitude at their base, because it's something that we feel is right, and something that we feel is connecting us with God or the universe or Allah, or
Mm-hmm.
however we call it. And that's why I think this also can unify people, because we all want to be appreciated. We all want to feel um, that we have meaning, and usually we feel that we have meaning when other people appreciate us. And I think also that's why many people want to be stars and want to be known by people, because they seek appreciation and love,
Mm-hmm.
which actually is God.
Yeah, I think we all want to be seen, even the ones who are hiding.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
want us to be seen for who we really are, and sometimes it takes a long time to know who we really are. We only see we only see the flaws. Sometimes we only see the flaws and the blemishes. There's an exercise that I used to do with clients, and Robin taught it to me, but it may have come somewhere else. I don't know. And it's to help people remember who they really are, and imagine that you're a glass of milk, pure, white, fresh, clean milk. But you're born into society, and maybe your mom was chocolate milk, and she threw some of her chocolate milk into yours. And maybe your dad was whiskey, and he threw some of your whiskey in there. Well, what happened to your glass of pure white milk? It's sour. It's, chocolatey, whiskety sour now, but that's not who you really are. And part of our work, when we do our own personal growth work, is to get rid of that chocolate milk from mom and the whiskey from dad, so you can go back to being that pure white milk that you were meant to be and that you really are inside. You just have forgotten because all these layers of other people's stuff has come up on top of you.
yeah, yeah. Beautiful, really, really great idea and exercise. Yeah, it's a good visualization for when you're working on your issues, to think that you are milk, and the fact that the issues that you have are actually not us. We usually think that a problem that we have and a way that we behave, it's us. It's actually something that we learn,
Mm-hmm.
something that we we just were born, and afterwards we knew how to behave in a certain way that's not good for us or for others. Something that we learned and that can be unlearned in time with some effort, but it can be. Yeah, so and you said something about a course that you're working on.
Right. I have a course on Udemy. It's called Tap Cravings Away, the 5-minute
Mhm.
craving cure. I've used this technique for myself. I used to be, well, addicted to ice cream would probably be a good way to say it, although that was my biggest comfort food. And now ice cream is as important to me as, a slice of cucumber or a raw tomato. You know, it's like, it's okay. I don't have to have it. It's nice, but it's not a big deal. And so
Wow.
I've used this technique for myself. I've used it with clients. They've gotten rid of a lot of different cravings. I had one woman who was in a class, and she did it because she could not go into the grocery store without buying those little mini Reese's peanut butter cups. So she brought one with her. She did this technique. She still has that little bitty, she took a one bite, she still has the rest of it on her counter, and it's been 2 or 3 years now. And she walks by
Wow.
it and she says, yeah, it's there. It's like, I don't really care about it anymore. Yeah.
Wow. Talking about getting your power back and control over your life. Amazing.
hmm
Amazing. Amazing. And how can people see the course, or where can they see your work?
Okay, so I have 3 websites:
Mm-hmm.
stopeatingyourheartout.com, sourcetapping.com, and yourgrievingheart.com. And when they sign up at any of those, there's free things that you'll be getting, and you can be on my email list and you'll find out what other things I'm doing. And I send out informational posts and other free things a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds really interesting. And I know that source tapping is based on EFT.
Right. So I was trained in EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, with Gary Craig, the founder, in 1997. I loved it. I took it immediately to my clients and they loved it. They had a few challenges though. And that's why source tapping was born, because they said, well, I want the spirituality piece. I want to include a higher power. I don't remember what to say or where to tap. And so those parts became part of the evolved form of what I'm doing now, which is source tapping. We call it an EFT cousin. And then source tapping is so much like EFT, but it also includes bringing in a positive. It includes the pleasure breath, which increases oxytocin, the feel-good hormone. It includes releasing things down to the root. So it's similar, but because it has a script and specific words to use and brings in the higher power, you become a partner with your spirituality, higher power, God, universe, higher self, whatever. So it has a little bit of a different focus, but it's basically still tapping on acupressure points to release physical and emotional pain, cravings, manage stress, and all that other stuff that EFT does.
Awesome. Awesome. So you're including this in your course on Udemy, or?
Yes, this is part of the course on Udemy. And if anybody wants a script from Source Tapping, they just go to sourcetapping.com and you can get this. I'll send you the free script.
Wow.
And you'll be able to
Awesome.
see the script and the
Awesome.
diagram of points and be able to do it.
Awesome. I'll have a look immediately after we finish. So thank you very much, Meryl. It has been great pleasure talking to you and learning from you. A ton of great insights and really interesting life experiences that you taught us. And I'm just grateful that you accepted my invitation and that we had this time to talk.
I want to say how grateful I am for this opportunity. So thank you so very much.